Perfect.
So now we're hot. And let's see, we got the music queued up. Shall we just go ahead and, if we remember how to do this?
We're not waiting on anybody.
I'm thinking your headphones are hot too.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to ShiftLess.
Wait, what?
ShiftLess.
Can't fucking hear. Good Lord. That was loud.
It's been a while. We're out of practice.
I hope it was as loud for our listeners.
It'll auto level before it gets to them, so they'll go. What's wrong with Brad? He's such a dipshit.
Yep, they're not wrong.
Oh my gracious!
So, how was your Thanksgiving lasagna, or is that
No,
Christmas?
no. Christmas is lasagna.
Okay.
Thanksgiving is turkey.
Okay.
We do. Well, I say this year we didn't do a traditional Thanksgiving. Well, we ended up in a traditional Thanksgiving setting, but a new one to us. So,
Well, I hope your turkey was extra moist.
it was a good fried turkey.
Oh, okay. Very nice.
It was a good fried turkey, thanks
Very nice.
to Jan's cousin.
Was it legitimately deep fried?
I'm pretty sure yes.
Because you know they have air fryers for turkeys. I want to say it's an air fryer. I don't know if
Not
they call
in
it an air
Monticello, Georgia. They don't.
fryer. Oh, they do. I mean,
No, well, I'm making.
if they have them in Boondoggle, Mississippi,
No,
they have them.
Cousin Brad's been frying chickens for decades now, so I don't think they had the air fried chicken back then, or
Yeah,
frying turkeys. Excuse me.
Yeah. That's
You knew
fair.
what I meant.
Yeah.
You knew what I meant.
I was tracking.
All right, I can't help myself. I got to try a bite.
Yeah.
Do I bite first, or do you tell me what it is first?
You know what? I'd rather you bite and then tell me what you think it is.
Ooh, it's dense.
Yeah.
Oh my. Oh, this is gonna be a little bite. I can't eat all this. I can already tell you that.
That's fair. Eat what you want.
Tis the season.
Tis the season.
Tis the season. Nutmeggy?
There's-
Or is it just spice?
It's pumpkin spice. Yeah.
Okay.
Of course, you know. I figured I'd lean into my loathing.
You leaned very, very well into it. I'm going to call it a pumpkin spice cake.
Yeah, it's a white pumpkin butter mochiko
Okay.
cake.
Okay.
It's mochiko's a Japanese rice, glutinous rice flour. It may not be Japanese. I think it's Japanese. but I'm
Asian?
not sure. Yeah.
Asian
Um,
is fair.
Yeah. And it's
And it's very, very good.
one of my new favorites.
That's outstanding. I'm going to put it to the side for the moment, but there's a good chance it's going to get finished before we're done.
I was going to say, I'll bet you come back to it.
Holy moly! We missed 2 episodes, or is it 3?
Yes.
Okay, it's 2.
Yeah, you went just completely dark on us, and I was like, I guess Kevin just going to move to Georgia and just stay there.
There was no way to get all the pieces. There's so many moving pieces on this trip, and it was.
Yeah, I figured as much.
Yeah, and there's ongoing moving pieces, so we're gonna have to get creative for if we want to keep this thing going. But we'll figure that out. We don't have to figure that out in this sitting.
Nah.
Right now. So what I miss? It got wet here. I noticed that.
It did. It rained. Shit, I can't even remember when it rained, and it was cold as poop yesterday.
Well, yeah, we got back Sunday morning.
Yeah.
And it rained on us on the way. I mean, yeah, all the way into the house. So it was raining Sunday morning.
Yeah, so it rained all day Saturday. That's what it was.
Okay.
And I was not going to ramble on Sunday. All the trails were closed and everything else. And Adam and I had made plans to go off-roading in Bridgeport at the off-road park there.
Mm-hmm.
But when
in his Rivian?
In the river van.
Okay.
And when I went to, we had a dinner Saturday night, and we had some guests stay late. And
Oh, what a shock.
there was some whiskey.
More shocks.
Yeah. And I did not anticipate
I'm
off-roading
so
the next day.
surprised.
Yeah. I had zero expectation of off-roading the next day because of how much rain we had had. And it wasn't how much rain we had had, it was over how much time we had had rain.
I mean,
It was just a slow soaker all day.
yeah. Monday I rode my bike and everything was still soaked everywhere. It's like, oh, we got a good bit of rain.
So we shifted, and Adam said, well, meet at my house at noon. We're still going to go. And so we went, got there about 1:10 or something. Get it, met us there. And then we met Jacob and Maggie, the Dorba president, and his lovely wife.
And they come from the off-road community, right?
Oh, yeah. He brought a Ford Bronco, one of the newer Ford Broncos, which I got to drive, which was very cool. Those things, it was a standard.
Mm-hmm.
And it has a crawl gear.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. I mean, it's a throwback to the old Broncos, you know. Just the fact that you can get a standard nowadays is impressive on top of everything. But super capable vehicle.
I mean, the Jeep we traded in last year was
had a
stick.
crawl?
It was stick and crawl.
I guess I haven't been in that community. So
Yeah, I don't know that you'd be welcome there, but
that's okay. I don't like rubber ducks. We proceeded to get stuck within the first 10 minutes.
Bridgeport's not a great place to be after a rain.
Yeah, it was soupy. It was partially bad line decision given by the co-pilot, this guy.
Yeah, but that's not your field of expertise.
That's true. But I mean, I like to act like I know what I'm talking about no matter what.
Well, you know soup.
Yeah,
You know soup.
I do know soup. No soup for you. We got so stuck in the river van that it was almost over the door sill.
Yeah.
And we were so...
Was that the stuck or was that the water?
Well, it was stuck in mud.
Right, but was the mud up over the door sill or was that
No,
standing water?
it was standing water.
Okay, that's what. Yeah, they get those deep mud puddles there.
Yeah. And once the river van loses traction,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if you push the accelerator or not. It just doesn't do anything. It just goes, oh, we're not moving, so we're not going to spin the wheels. It's
Even if you turn off traction control?
We had traction control off.
Okay.
But it didn't matter. We were high centered.
Yeah.
And that thing has a skateboard bottom on it.
Yep.
So it was suctioned to the mud.
Yep. Well, that's why I said in the Rivian.
Well, I'll have you know, we've been out there before, caveat, super dry when we were out there before.
Yeah.
And that thing handled everything like a monster, like not scared of anything.
Sure.
The only fault in it was its tires because he has 22-inch rims on it, so it has not much sidewall.
Yeah.
But it would... So when we went to the park, there was literally nobody else there. And so the lady at the front was basically like, you guys are idiots for being here. But we're open and we're happy to take your money.
We'll take your money.
Yeah. But she effectively told us, you're on your own.
Yeah.
Like there's nobody's coming for you.
Yeah.
You know? Much like Spinistryville. You know?
Much like.
This is not a SAG event. So we were stuck, like I said, within the first 10 minutes. I mean, just brr, to the effect it took. Luckily, Garrett he drove out there just to meet us. He goes, oh, I have a strap in my vehicle. So Jacob and Maggie went back to the parking lot, got this strap. Jacob had brought a winch that wasn't attached to his vehicle just to help with approach angle and everything, but it just locks into the hitch mount.
Okay, yeah.
So he first put the strap on and tried to pull us out.
You said strap on.
He tried to pull us out, nothing. I mean, not even budging. So ended up strapping the Bronco to a boulder and using the winch to pull us out. And it took everything that was asked of that strap and that winch.
I'm surprised that it worked, to be honest with you.
It was a game of centimeters. Just
yeah.
and I was sitting in the passenger seat where the winch line was coming straight at, because of the hooks are offset on the front.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in the floor, almost in the floorboard, just like, man, if this winch breaks, I do not want to be here. But once it finally broke that suction, you could feel like, oh, okay, we're going to get out.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like, but it sounded like we were in a submarine, because that winch line was so taut, and it would adjust just a little bit. When it was coming, I guess, rolling onto the, it was like,
but that's not good.
It was this super high pitch, like, ding, ding. I was like, oh God. And I just envisioned us sleeping in the Rivian.
So it was a braided steel line?
Yeah. I don't know why. I meant to ask him why he's running a braided steel line instead of a nylon, which is, or whatever everybody's going to. Kevlar or whatever.
The price is part of it, but also longevity. And, well, ultimately that's price. So with the nylon stuff, even if you have it properly wound and take care of it, you're supposed to replace it every couple of years.
Yeah.
The steel braided stuff, until it pops, it's good to go.
Yeah, but when it does, I mean, that's a nasty mess.
Oh, God, yes.
Plus, when those things get wrapped incorrectly, they're a freaking nightmare.
Oh, no doubt.
I knew you'd be back.
Oh, I never denied that, but we're just going to...
I'm about to have to sneeze.
You do that. We're gonna savor the cake here.
So I have not been really paying attention to bikes, and have obviously been neglecting my bike riding too.
Oh no!
I rode on.
Oh, that was the best bike yet.
What's today? Today's Wednesday.
Today's Wednesday.
There was no ride yesterday on Tuesday.
Okay.
And I rode on Monday. Monday was the first time I'd ridden since the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, so almost 2 weeks.
You need to get back on the home.
I'm riding today.
Okay.
But I've been head down. I had events last week and dinner on Saturday, and like I mentioned, when I went to Mississippi, I didn't bring a bike with me, and regretfully actually, and we just ate and drank and played cards and had a good time. And then I've got 3 events this week. I've got cheese display.
'Tis the season.
Yeah, cheese display Thursday, cheese display Friday, and a full house of dinner on Saturday. So after this, though, I get to breathe. And I only have, now I have 125 miles to make it to 3,500 miles for the year.
Okay.
So that is...
You've got time to make it to 4,000.
Oh, shit, I wish.
You've got time.
Oh, I don't have time.
We'll make this happen.
Yeah.
4,000 is better than 3,500.
I know, but 3,500 is my short-term, long-term goal.
I understand.
Well,
and that's strong.
Yeah. Well,
I'm not diminishing the power of the 35.
Especially considering I didn't really start riding my bike until late June.
Right.
So my plan is next year start with the same momentum I began the middle of the year with.
Mm-hmm. Good, son. Tight. Is there a third one, or are you a double sneezer?
I'm normally a 3 sneeze guy, but so my plan is to hit next year with hit the ground running, as they say, or riding. And I've got a lot of stuff planned for next year, so that's good. Obviously, Race Across Texas is one of them. But we had a good overnighter. Have we talked since we had the overnighter?
No.
I don't know if we had podcasts since then.
No, we haven't. You had you said you were going to request a route from me during the last episode, and that didn't happen. But you sent me a picture from Sanger. But I didn't get. There's number 3.
Oh, sorry.
I didn't get any details, and that was on the front end of the trip, and thanks for going.
So we did a real chill, like probably almost a glamping bike packing trip.
Nothing wrong with that.
Even though we all carried all our own shelter, change of clothes, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, we all did carry our cook systems as well, but there was no need to filter water. Our Muster or Sleep Point or whatever it was, Hocamp's place.
Okay.
And,
Camp Hocamp.
Yeah. And so
that was staging and parking.
Yes, I drove.
Departure.
No. We departed from here.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But we didn't leave. It was a Monday gig.
All right. So that was the ultimate destination.
That's
was
right.
Camp Hocamp.
That's right. So I did say Muster. You're right. So on Saturday, Paula Ann and I had some running around to do, and we went and did all that, and we took a cooler up that way and 2 jugs of water, so we'd have water on tap, and I bought some strips and some ribeyes and did a dry brine on them and left them in the ice chest overnight. I had some sweet potatoes wrapped in foil ready to go, and I brought a bag of coals and all that, and I had some blanched asparagus ready to go, along with a micro grate that I could just put on the grill to grill the asparagus so it doesn't fall through the grate,
Okay. Makes sense.
So I fired up the grill once we got there and grilled us some steaks and roasted those sweet potatoes over open coals and grilled the asparagus, and we ate like kings. And then
that sounds awesome, man. You're making my tummy grumbly.
Then we drank
have to
beer.
Do something about that.
We drank beer by the fire and listened to music, and it was awesome.
So how many miles did you put in to get there?
I think it was like 46, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
The goal was to do around 50 or so.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the way back, we woke up the next morning and a cold front had come in, and it was miserable. Now, here's the funny thing, though. The cards were ever in our favor. On Sunday, on our departure, the wind was coming out of the south.
Okay.
Like 20 miles an hour-ish.
Okay.
And then on Monday, on our return, the winds flipped, and they were coming out of the north.
Okay.
However, it was way colder than the brochure. It was like in the 30s when we woke up, where it was only supposed to get down to like 48, 50 weather. I know.
I've heard the saying.
I know. None of us were quite prepared for what we were up against, but just because it was so windy and it was that cut through you wind, much like yesterday, where it was coming straight out of the north and it was just bitter cold, like bone chilling cold. So we opted for a more abbreviated route on the way home, and I think we ended up with 28, 30 miles or something. And we stopped and ate on the way home at on the square in Denton at Coney Island, Dick's Coney Island, I think. I've never eaten there before. It was actually for like a breakfast joint, like a cafe diner place. Pretty damn good.
Okay.
So, and they have never had this before, and it was actually really good. They've been open for like 7 years, and it wasn't until this year that they had what they refer to as pork bacon.
What did they have prior to that?
Beef bacon. So I had their beef bacon. Looked just like bacon, except for darker, not that light pink color.
Sure.
Delicious.
Okay.
Never heard of it before. Didn't know it was a thing.
I've never heard of it.
I've heard of turkey bacon.
Yeah. That doesn't count. So beef bacon. I mean, does it have a beef fat taste to it, or?
Yeah, I mean, it tastes like. I'm trying to think of what I would relate it to. It almost has like a short rib flavor.
I was going to ask short ribbish.
Yeah, short rib flavor, but the texture's like bacon.
Right.
Maybe slightly chewier, a little bit more resistance, but really good.
Does it crisp up, or is it?
It was still like a little chewy.
Okay. Understood.
It was good. Very good. It was a good place to park too, because you can see, like a lot of the storefronts on the square, it's all glass on the front, so we could see all our bikes while we sat there.
That's always nice.
Yeah, it was.
That peace of mind of, I don't have to, do I need to go check on my bike?
Right.
I hate that.
Oh my gosh. It's the worst. As a cyclist, that's like one of the things that most people don't consider when they stop to eat somewhere on a road trip or something like that. it's always like, can I see my bike? Can I see my vehicle? You know, so.
Yep.
I'm trying to think of what else is going on in the cycling world right now. Like I said, I've been really out of touch. There's other crazy stuff that's going on.
Such as?
Well, this whole United Healthcare thing that's captivating the world right now.
Yeah.
With the assassination, which I'm sure it's, by all points, it seems like that's what it is. But
I think it's a fair label at this point.
But then they allegedly caught the person like one state over with like all the stuff still on him, which doesn't make sense. I haven't, to be fair, I haven't kept perfect touch with the story, but it's so weird.
It's definitely weird, but it looks like the eyes and eyebrows of the guy in the picture, so I think it's most likely the person they were looking for. I think we're going to find out there's a high degree of mental instability involved with this person, is my guess, but that's just a guess at this point.
It sounds like they're just part of the disgruntled customer base of United Healthcare.
I mean, it gets weird. That's where it does get weird. It sounds like that, and I have a story that could throw into that. It sounds like that, but all of the related pieces, it doesn't really seem like it is truly that cut and dried.
Yeah.
Like nobody's been able to at this point say, well, here's exactly what his issue with United. Everyone was assuming, a loved one had an issue or something like that, denied coverage or whatever. So far, nobody's put those pieces together.
Right.
And he comes from an extremely wealthy family.
Oh, wow.
And he was class valedictorian at his private prep school, went to Penn State, Ivy League school, got his master's.
Wow.
There's a lot of similarities to the Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski, with this guy for whatever reasons.
Will we be able to view his manifesto, do you think?
I saw it yesterday.
Oh, did you? Okay. Like I said, I haven't done
it's not. It's not to the level of Kaczynski's. It's more of a paragraph or two as opposed to.
Oh, okay.
As far as we know, maybe he's got something in the background. And again, even the Unabomber stuff, even after he was caught, that still took decades for all of that stuff to come out. So,
I did see a meme this morning. It was either this morning or late last night that was like, isn't it interesting, only 5 days after this whole thing happened, we know more about this guy than we know about the guy that tried to assassinate the president. Pretty interesting.
Being alive probably has something to do with it.
Probably helps. That is true.
There's all sorts of those things that are. Yeah, let's not get into the Las Vegas shooting, and
talk about a conspiracy rabbit hole.
It's like that should still be top news of what the hell happened here and why.
Yeah.
And and that one's just completely
just been brushed under the carpet.
Yeah. So there's something weird involved in these things, but I don't know at what level and who's responsible, and which conspiracy does it truly tie in? Who knows? I don't know. Yeah. But there's definitely stuff going on in the background in most of these things.
Oh yeah.
But that has almost nothing to do about bicycles.
Yeah, you're right.
Maybe the United CEO assassin, maybe he rode a bike.
Probably an e-bike.
You say that like it's a bad thing.
I'm not saying it's like a bad thing.
Yeah, that was the implication. Yeah. That was the sarcasm that was dripping off of your tongue there.
You're right. That's the way I meant it.
Well, actually, he did ride an e-bike. That was his getaway vehicle.
Oh, the assassin. The assassin. Yeah.
We brought it back to bikes eventually, and e-bikes on top of it all.
So Eddie Merckx, I just saw Eddie Merckx was injured in a cycling crash. I didn't even know.
I didn't even know he still rode bikes.
Yeah.
When was this?
He's recovering in a hospital after suffering a broken hip in a bike crash. The accident occurred near Merckx's home in Belgium, where he was riding with friends on a regular group outing. Dude, how old is Eddie Merckx? He's got to be 70.
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of 70-year-old riders out there.
That's fair, but...
I hope to be one of them when I'm at that age.
Same. Oh, 79 years old.
I was about to say, I was thinking closer to 80. But
I didn't want to be an asshole, but I was thinking too.
Yeah.
God, good for him. I mean, bad for him, good for him.
Well, and so, again, I've got some experience with this stuff too. At that age, I mean, that's right. My dad's 80.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, he, just the specimen of health prior to his fall.
Mm-hmm.
And it definitely gets more complicated at that age. No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Yeah.
And part of that complication is, well, more things break more easier.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean,
in very bad ways.
Well, at 79 years old, if you wreck your bike, I mean, it's not surprising he broke his hip.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. And, you know, taking it a little bit back towards that United Healthcare front, at that age, the insurance companies, they're going to go, no, you're too old for all of these procedures and care because, you know, you're going to die in the next 2 or 3 years anyway by statistics.
So was that the deny part? That was the whole... allegedly, that was part of the whole thing, was they have the highest denial rate of claims from any insurance company.
Again, that was what people were assuming was the impetus to it all.
Yeah.
And we, you know...
Cute word.
It's appropriate, though, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
Okay, good. Yeah. Sometimes I make this stuff up. Sometimes I don't.
It just turns me on when people use big words.
There were a lot of assumptions that's what it was, and I think they're fair assumptions. So I'm not saying they're wrong by any stretch of the imagination, but we still don't have it's because of their rate of denial that this guy was targeted.
But wasn't there a casing allegedly found on site that said deny? There were deny, delay, and
depose or something, and which is very similar, but not exactly the same as a title for the healthcare industry. It's not. It's the industry, not United.
But there was a book that came out.
That's what I'm saying.
With that exact title.
It's not the exact.
I thought it was
3 Ds, but a different third D.
Okay.
And I don't want to confuse myself trying to remember which ones are in what order in the title.
That third D always is what always gets you.
Man, 2 Ds is enough. Ask anyone. There's just not room for that third D.
Well, you know.
Not comfortably.
Yeah, okay. Let's take this back to bikes.
Where the hell are we going? But what had happened was... So this was our discovery for last night with my dad's situation. So originally, and it is United... he was denied his transfer from ICU to a top-level rehab facility, basically because he's too old. So basically United was saying, it's not worth it to fix him. Mm-hmm. Simplification, but But the rehabilitation facilities told us on the front end, that's what's going to happen. We're going to have to go through this appeal process. We've got it under control. And the appeal process got under control, and he went to that top-line rehab facility. And we were under the impression that was arranged for up to 100 days. And, I mean, he has lots of stuff that needs to happen, physical therapy-wise. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, he is the model patient for them. I mean, he is the star of the hospital by how well he's progressing at his age and the extent of the injury he had.
You say he broke 2 vertebrae?
He broke his neck.
Yeah.
He broke his neck.
Yeah.
He's not paralyzed.
Yeah.
He does have movement in all limbs, but he can't feed himself. Both his left side is he has movement and sensory perception, but very little else on
But
the
not
left side.
control.
No.
Yeah.
And so, we don't know what the long-term prognosis or potential, but that's the whole point. It's like you do it a few weeks at a time, see where the progress is, and see how it compares to where you were. And
Yeah.
if there's still progress a couple weeks after that, at some point you get to the plateau.
Yeah, it's step by step.
It
Yeah.
is.
But didn't you say he was a gym rat?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's something to be said for continuing to stay active at that age as far as injury recovery goes. There's been
There's something to be said for it, but the insurance company doesn't take that into account.
right. No, I'm talking about just from a personal battle. Just having a better tool chest to recover from major injuries.
There's positives and negatives to it, though. So a lot of that determination that he applied in that gym rat environment, that he's a physical specimen at his age. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that.
The tenacity that has to be, yeah.
But for example, to overly simplify it, my mother has her she's dealing with Parkinson's, and she broke her hip last year and things like that. And this is a reality of when you get up to 80 years old.
Yeah.
They're both at 80 years old in pretty good health comparatively to the rest of the general population, but you start dealing with these problems. But my dad's gym rat mentality, for example, wouldn't allow her to install handrails in the bathrooms, in the showers and stuff like that, because you need to force yourself to balance and step big and push.
Wow.
And but that's gym rat mentality.
Yeah. Well, it's
pain cave mentality.
It's bullheaded man mentality.
Well, no, I understand that.
Yeah.
But again, let's take it back to cycling. There's traditional coaching.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that involved, or the original perceptions of this is how you get strong on a bike. There's a lot of that bullheaded mentality.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's wrong, but I'm saying here's the benefits that you're talking about to it at 80 years old. Hey,
yeah.
Realistically, he probably wouldn't have survived that fall.
Yeah.
That's the reality.
He was just sedentary. Yeah.
Most likely.
Yeah.
But there is a negative impact of it in that mentality that pushes you to those levels can be distributed to those around you and affect their lives as well.
Yeah.
So and I'm not throwing my dad under the bus here. Here's a byproduct of it. And it's something we are legitimately dealing with, because back to United, now they're basically saying he's out of there on the 20th and going home.
Wow.
And
your mom's not ready to take care of him.
No.
Yeah.
And he's going to be wheelchair bound, but at this point, all of these things that could have been done to the house to make it more convenient for my mother that he refused to do are the things
that he now needs. Yeah.
And we don't. How do we make that happen by the 20th?
Yeah.
So. Hey, welcome to adulting, right? It's part of the mix. But
isn't it crazy? Like, you just got through raising your kids, and now you got to take care of your parents.
Isn't that the way it always works?
Yeah, I guess so.
I'm oversimplifying it. We're not surprised by it by any stretch of the imagination, and thank God our kids are so amazing.
Yeah. Same.
That makes we've had this discussion so many times. All these people that are complaining about this younger generation and the next gen, what are you talking about? These, and I'm not talking just my kids. I mean, all the kids that are their friends and their circles around them all these years.
Yeah.
This crew has their shit together much more than me and my crew. Hell, they have it better than me and my crew now, let alone back when I was their age.
Yeah. It seems like it's a standard grumbling passing of the torch kind of thing.
Sure it is.
Every generation goes, this next generation's going to ruin everything. It seems like you're supposed to take that stance when you get to a certain age. But I'm failing to see it too. But we're also shaking things up at my house where I told my kids straight up. I said, if you're not an asshole, you can live here as long as you want. Like, I don't see a point in you hurrying out of the house at 18 years old and going and struggling for, a decade before you get your shit together and can buy actual groceries and
Right.
live a real life. But, I do want them to get out and figure themselves out. So it's kind of a,
I was thinking about it last night. That's, again, related to my dad stuff. And,
yeah.
it's spending a couple weeks back home like that. It's like, oh, yeah, all that shit Brad complains about me. Now I see why I do that. All the stuff Brad's been telling me I need to fix. This is what caused it.
Well, you're a product of your environment, your upbringing.
Exactly. Yeah. And my takeaway last night while I was dwelling on that, I mean, that's the simplification of it, but that was where my head was going, was, you know what? I don't want to toot my own horn, but I think my kids turned out pretty well. And I may suck at everything else, but I think my offspring ended up pretty well.
You don't suck at everything else. You shut your mouth. I mean, this therapy session was brought to you by pumpkin pie.
Man, that stuff's dying. What do you call this again?
It's white. So this is a white pumpkin butter mochiko cake. So mochiko is the binder. It's a glutinous rice flour. So not that it ever really matters to me, but this is a gluten-free cake. Mm-hmm. Mochiko is the substitute for flour, but that's also what gives it that texture, that and that density. And then there's homemade butter in there, which is obviously the fat, and then it's got all the other stuff. There's Vietnamese Ceylon cinnamon in there, and there's a pumpkin spice blend. Eggs, and obviously sugar, but I take a whole white pumpkin and roast it until it's soft and then wring it out, and then that's where all the flavoring component comes from. But I just like that it's a white pumpkin, so when you set it down in front of somebody, it doesn't have that standard bright orange pumpkin color.
Right. Right.
So it's somewhat unassuming, and normally I serve it with a maple syrup whipped cream cheese just to put it over the top. So you touched on a lot of things about this that are. So I'm a fan of complex but subtle. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Yeah.
And
unassuming.
And this, it seems simple. It seems basic. Mm-hmm. And the first impression of the flavoring is simple and basic. But it's like, it just keeps coming at you. Little bit of, onions have layers, and pumpkin spice cake from Brad has layers.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's one of my newfound favorites.
I am most assuredly a fan of it.
It's good stuff.
So you did this for a fam? Okay.
Yeah.
But you said it's new for you, yes?
Yeah. I think that was only the second time we've served it, maybe the third time, but I'm a huge fan of it.
That's very good. It's outstanding. I was looking at I was trying to find a video my daughter had sent me. Again, excuse me. Hell, I pulled a Brad there. I'm going to rave over my children some more. Jessica, my daughter, had sent a video. She went to Japan in October.
I'm so jealous. That's the one
basically
place I want to go.
On a foodie trip. And so she sent me. She went in Kyoto. She went to this. It's so Japanese. The dumpling place in Kyoto.
Kyoto is like the dining capital of Japan.
And,
Japan is the dining capital of Japan.
There's like 6 seats and a line out the door, and you just sit there and eat dumplings until you're done. And then when you get up, somebody else walked.
Yeah.
And she shot a video of the guy doing it, and it was. And
Please send that to me.
well, I was trying to find it. I tried to send it to you when she forwarded it to me, and but she's on an iPhone. I'm on an Android. It got to my phone eventually, but it doesn't let me do it. Damn Apple proprietary bullshit.
I'm going to say damn Android.
No, because it's Apple that has the gates up. It's not
That's
Android.
true. I heard they were trying to be more cross-platform friendly, but I haven't seen it. So let's get back to bikes.
Let's.
Muck Off, a company that we're all familiar with, launches waterproof dry packs in its new adventure range, which I didn't even know they were on that realm.
I mean, Muck Off throws more shit up against the wall than anybody.
Yeah. It's interesting because years ago when everybody thought they wanted to take stands off the market as being a sealant producer, Muck Off introduced a sealant, and I was given some by a friend of ours who was a rep for Muck Off at the time. And I was like, hell yeah, I'll try it. Awful. And I think they changed the formula now, and it's supposed to be a lot better.
Maybe. Whenever I've tried Muck Off stuff, it's always been first generation stuff that they learn from.
Yeah.
So they're quick to market on stuff.
Yes. Which, I mean,
hey, I can relate to that. That's
somebody has to do it.
That's a Spinistry business model.
Quick to market, quick to reconfigure.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, Elon's big on that for their stuff. But yeah, I've never had anything Muck Off I've tried. I've never had good luck with.
So they did a couple of things. So they have so I equate it to the electronics world. You know, there's certain companies that put technology out and it's got so many bugs and flaws. And then you have other companies that will take that same technology and refine it and not put it out until it's perfect. Like
right.
Panasonic is that company that if they put something out, it's pretty rock solid. And you know, you have other companies that will put stuff out and it's like, it's good, but it's not going to last, and it's got quirks and everything else. Muck Off is a lot like that. Like you said, they're really quick to market, but they did a product that I thought was really cool and kind of maybe a little bit gimmicky, where they had this, I don't even know what we call it, but it was a degreaser, and it, you spray it on your drivetrain and your chain ring and everything, and then they had like a little pocket black light, so you could see if any of it was left behind, which I thought was pretty smart, thinking outside the box.
Sure.
And it worked pretty well. The product worked really well, but here in typical Muck Off fashion, the sprayer gave up the ghost after the first 2 or 3 uses. So
very typical Muck Off fashion, yes.
So I still have a whole bottle of it almost, but you have to squeeze this. It's a proprietary sprayer, and you have to squeeze it, pump the trigger like 20 times just to get a little out of it. So
now we're talking about your bedroom, not mine. No.
In concept, it's great, but like I said, typical Muck Off fashion, the applicator doesn't hardly work. But I also didn't know they were in, Muck Off was in the motorcycle realm, because the first sentence of this says, bicycle and motorcycle care company, Muck Off, has launched its new adventure gear range, containing 2 new waterproof dry packs, which I'm sure are just somebody else's dry pack that they rebranded, relabeled, but
most likely. But yeah, I will look at it. I'm curious, but
I mean, it's a dry bag. It's probably heavy, and it looks like it's robust, especially if it's aimed after.
I may have a bicycle story from my trip that might be interesting to you.
Okay. I saw your flat video, but I didn't see how it concluded, so I wanted to ask you about that.
Okay, well, and hey, so we're almost on the same page. So what had happened was, yes, I had a flat tire.
How did you get a flat first of all, and tell me what led up to that. Like, was there stands in there? When was the last time you checked your stands and that kind of stuff? What kind of tires were you running? These are all my questions.
Understood.
Yeah.
Fair questions, all of them.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So basically, I was on a Forest Service road
Mm-hmm.
with recent logging activity.
Okay.
So they had thrown new aggregate, rock,
Mhm.
gravel.
What's the gravel like? Oh, bird.
Yeah, it was just fluttering around. It was pretty
What's
cool.
the gravel situation like down there? Is it roundstone? Is it caliche? Is it slate?
All of it,
Yeah.
and that's what kind of threw me off a little bit here. And so where this logging activity happened, they brought in some very, very sharp cornered and chunky aggregate, almost like railroad ballast, to dump on the roads after the logging had been done. And basically I'm just chugging along 15 miles an hour, having a grand time. And evidently, I tried to look at the video to see exactly what I hit, but it looks like it was just a piece of aggregate embedded in the silt on the road with just a sharp corner, just pointed right at me, and it caught the back tire, poked a hole in the back tire that was too big for the orange seal sealant. This was orange seal.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Well, I mean,
No.
I knew
Yeah.
you were going to ask which one.
Yeah.
And I'm not throwing an orange seal under the bus for this one. It was a bigger hole than
Yeah.
than sealant
It
would.
wasn't just a puncture, it was a slash.
I wouldn't call it a slash, but it was dead center, right into where the knob went into the tire, in between, probably pencil head size.
Okay.
Sharpened pencil.
Yeah.
So good size, just big enough to be a bit too big for sealant, but probably ideal for a plug. But I didn't have plugs with me at the time. Understood? Yes, I dropped the ball there. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And it was also the rear tire, and it was on the confluence, so it's the hub motor. E-bike.
Is that a pain in the ass to remove and replace in a remote location? Or do you not know because you didn't jack with it? I guess you didn't really need to. If you would have had a plug, you wouldn't have had to remove it.
If I would have had a plug, I wouldn't have had to remove it, most likely. Now, I will say this. When it first happened, the way the sealant was spewing out, I had my fingers crossed that a spin of the tire would have been enough. It's like, I knew it was like a 50-50 proposition, but with one spin, it's like, no, it ain't going to stop.
But did you situate it to the bottom and try to let the sealant settle?
Yeah, it wasn't
going to happen.
Orange seal works better for me now than it did back in the day. I used to not be an orange seal proponent at all. I've had better luck with them the past few years. But in a situation like this, it was very orange sealish. It did. I'm pretty confident Stans would have clogged up that hole.
Yeah.
But I also recognize there's some advantages to orange seal. And with plugs, I think orange seal's not the wrong way to go most of the time.
I'm so not surprised that you run orange seal. You're such a contrarian. It's on brand for Kevin.
Actually, I run stand. I've run stands for years.
Yeah.
All the shops I'm going to now, they don't do stands anymore. They only have orange seal.
Why is that? Why?
I think orange seal's actually kind of taken over.
Really?
Market domination. I could be wrong. I hear a lot more people talking orange seal these days than stands.
I just in my circle, stands is the standard. You know.
I understand.
Yeah.
I'm not anti-stands.
No.
And I had tried orange seal for years without success, and I was very stands
So what's
biased.
So orange seal, the biggest thing I've heard people tout is the longevity of it. Like, it doesn't need to be topped off every 3 to 6 months like stands.
And it doesn't eat up tires like stands can.
Yeah, because it doesn't have ammonia in it.
Something like, I don't know what the specifics are, but I have been subject to those stands tire failures of whatever it does, it degrades some tires.
Yeah.
And
especially if you have a tire that is already thin, like especially on the sidewall. Like I've had tires that I ran for quite some time that I didn't wear out for whatever reason, and the sidewalls would just start weeping stands. So I get that. But
So I'm not here espousing stands. I'm not here espousing orange seal. I'm not here slamming orange seal. I'm not here slamming stands. It was the tubeless situation that we all ultimately run into eventually.
Now that's a beefier tire too, right? Is it fair to assume that it's an e-bike rated tire?
No, this one is not on that Confluence. This was the new Goodyear Cool Kids 50 millimeter gravel tire.
Okay,
and which I'm liking a lot. It's a tire I like a lot. But going back to I didn't know the specifics at that point of what it took to remove the rear wheel on that bike. Mm-hmm. And
I'm assuming a 6 millimeter Allen.
I mean, outside of being highly torqued on, it was one of those, I had to give it 3 tries. It's like, is it one side or the other? Or is one of these not,
right,
threaded or whatever else? And both sides were highly torqued on, but I ended up breaking the bind, whatever. Can't remember what word I'm thinking of, but anyway. So getting the axle loosened was not a problem, but what I couldn't figure out, and we had talked about this before, I think when we were at Gabe's that one time. How does the electricity get to the hub motor? Yeah. I'm trying to figure out how this works, and I'm looking, and there was definitely a ring between the
like a contactor ring.
Up inside of the dropout, between the dropout and the hub, and that's where the power was going to. So my first perception was, okay, I'm gonna loosen the axle and I'm gonna pull the wheel out and then I'm gonna pull that off.
Right.
No, that's not how it worked.
Not how it went down.
That's not how it worked. And at that point, I had decided, I was only 5 minutes from the cabin.
Oh, okay.
And
so you just hoofed it?
I called the wife and had her come get my ass.
Of course you did.
Hell yeah, I did. And when I say 5 minutes, it was my Subaru was 5 minutes. If I had been hoofing it, it'd have been an hour, Okay. And my knees definitely wouldn't have taken that. So I opted for that, knowing that I had plugs back at the cabin.
Yeah.
Or thinking I had plugs back at the cabin. So I opted to not. Well, I wasn't sure how to do the electrical contact, but it's like, I don't really want to break the bead on this tire, and I'm going to lose my whole tubeless setup to put a tube in.
Yeah.
And I'm in Jasper County, Georgia. I don't have a bottle of Stan's or Orange Seal with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to swap the tube out.
Sounds like you were way underprepared.
I had tubes. I had CO2. I just didn't have plugs with me.
Or sealant.
I never carry sealant with me. But and that may change. Make no mistake.
Yeah.
It's never been part of my standard arsenal for just a regular ride.
Looks like you might have visited a bike shop too, though.
We're getting there. So I go back to the cabin and figure out the proper way to remove the wheel.
Via YouTube?
No, actually reaching out to my friends at the Duck and saying, how do I change the wheel on this?
I would love to be a fly on the wall for this conversation. How do I take the wheel off of my bike?
Well, I knew how to take the wheel off. I didn't know how to disconnect the electricity.
No, I'm just fucking with you.
So if you follow that electrical line up the chainstay, well, it's not the chainstay on the non-drive side, or is it still a chainstay?
It's still a chainstay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Follow it up there. There was a connector.
Butt connector, yeah.
Yep. Which just unplugs, and then you just pull the bike. Now it's a slotted rear axle, so it goes in the dropouts only one way.
Yeah, it's got to be immobilized.
Yep.
Yeah.
So all that's good.
Yeah.
And then I go to get my plugs, and the plugs are
Bacon strips.
they're bacon strips.
Yeah.
That are bacon paste now.
Yeah. I've dealt with that before.
But
and that's a good reminder for people that just carry
Yes.
a kit on for years on end.
Yes.
Check your bacon strips before you need them, because they do have an expiration date.
It wasn't anything that had even crossed my mind.
Yeah.
And it's like, fuck.
Yeah.
Now what? It's like, no, I still don't want to break the bead on this tire. So I had the rear wheel off. Googleized it. Macon was 45 minutes away.
Mm-hmm.
There was a bike shop there with a 4.9 Google review rating.
Let me guess, is it called Bike Tech?
It is.
Huh.
I wonder how you figured that out.
I've been known to be observant.
And there, it was like 800 ratings or something like that.
Yeah.
And I glanced around, and there was like, at least on the map, there was a Trek store nearby and something else. And it's like, yeah, all right, these sound like my kind of guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like top of the list of bikes sold salsa sort of thing. So, this is my crew.
That is the place.
So I thought.
Yeah. I'm sensing a little foreshadowing.
So I make my way to Bike Tech. Super nice guys. I am not knocking them in the least.
However,
but they did not stock bike plugs.
Well, missed opportunity.
They do not stock tubeless tire bike plugs. But even more so, they are not proponents of tubeless tires at all. And
I don't even know how to process that. So did they not have sealant on the shelf?
Oh no, they are huge Orange Seal fans.
Oh, and then that's runs counterintuitive. They're putting Orange Seal in tubes?
Yes, they are.
What kind of a freaking Betty White nonsense backwoods shit is that?
I
guess if it works, it works.
Maybe we're in our echo chamber. Maybe we are in our Texas goat head based echo chamber. I'm going to go that.
Well, I guess they don't have cacti. And,
they don't have cactus. They don't have goat heads.
Yeah.
I think lower tire pressures still are applicable, but that's just me.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many attributes that can be given to it. But
again, I'm not. It's a different market. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
So different situations there. And
So here's my question. When you walk into this shop, do you get the sense that this is a serious cycling shop, or is it more of a casual kind of a cycling shop?
It's a different market. It's a different market than what you and I are used to.
But what is the breadth of the equipment and bikes that are represented in this shop? I mean, are there high-end bikes? Are there high-end components?
They had high end and they had low end.
Sure.
Not much of a middle.
Okay.
So, and I didn't go real in depth on their business and how things work there.
I'm just curious if that area maybe is just more of a casual riding environment.
Well, and I guess that's kind of what I'm getting to. I think maybe that's more indicative of what the cycling industry may be in most parts of the country, as opposed to what we're taking for granted as the norm.
I refuse to believe that.
I said maybe. I don't know. It opened my eyes to the possibility. That's all I'm saying.
You know what? If you're a ShiftLess listener and you run sealant in your tubes and you live somewhere other than Texas, please drop us a line and let us know.
So here's
why.
Again, I think shiftless listeners are still going to be a small overall market segment.
That's fair.
We're going to have a lot of commonality with anybody that's listening to this. I'm not dismissing the idea, the possibility that the way this shop caters to the cycling industry is maybe more broad-based across the whole cycling industry than what we may be more narrow in that cycling industry than we think. That's all I'm getting at.
So many niches.
Niches upon niches.
Yeah.
But the beauty of riding my bicycle and the beauty of long road trips is I have time to think and dwell and ponder. And one of the possibilities that I pondered in this specific situation, and it's not necessarily a negative, but it might be somewhat explanatory and ties into, are they high end or are they low end? Mm-hmm. They're both, but they're not much in the middle. Was, like I said, not basically they are the only bike shop in Macon. When the other ones that I had seen on the map were a little further south in Warner Robins.
Yeah.
So maybe another 30 minutes.
That's where the Trek store was?
Evidently.
Okay.
I didn't dig too much deep. I mean, once they said they didn't have plugs, I had my wheel in my hand. I was turning around to walk out the door. It's like, all right, no big deal. That's fine. I'll go find another shop.
Yeah.
There's no other shops. It's like, I thought there was a Trek store. That's down in Warner Robins. Oh, okay, I believe you. And again, nice guys. We had nice conversations.
Yeah.
And while I'm there going through all this, they had a steady flow of customers coming in and out. And so I believe them when they say they are the only shop in town, and Macon's a town of 150,000 people. Mm-hmm. It's not a small town. It's not a big town.
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, you probably have to go to Atlanta to get a bike shop experience more in line with what we're used to around here.
Flower Mound's like 150,000. Right?
But it's in the Metroplex.
That's fair. That's fair. It's hard to...
Greater Atlanta is like Greater Dallas-Fort Worth. Okay. That's my point.
It's hard to put my mind around an isolated town of 150,000 people.
Abilene.
Okay. That's fair.
Think Abilene.
Yeah.
Think something like that. Maybe Amarillo. Yeah, think something like that.
I don't know what their bike shop representation is like. Yeah.
But a standalone town, 150 to 200,000. Think Abilene or Amarillo, something like that.
Both maybe college towns, though, right? Or Amarillo's military town, right?
I don't think Amarillo's military any longer, but I could be wrong. Anyway.
Okay. Either way, sorry.
So what I got to pondering is there's a high likelihood that the bread and butter of that shop may be the 3 or 4 people a day that come in there that are very casual cyclists with flat tires.
That's what I was getting at, yeah.
And it may be bread and butter for them to change somebody's tire for them and put a sealant tube in there and charge them $40 for it or whatever. I don't know what their price is for that.
Yeah.
And if they're doing that 5 times a day, that's their $200 a day just to keep the lights on sort of thing. And they may be, it may be perceived by them to be detrimental to encourage people to go tubeless. I'm not saying that's the case. That was some of my ponderings, my reminiscences. Or something along those lines. You're the grammar guy. So it was an totally unexpected, and it's an experience that has me thinking. So I do want to have a better idea of what maybe and I've spoken about it before. I know our perceptions of cycling culture, the cycling industry, what bicycling is all about here in North Texas. I know it's different than most of the country. We are not bleeding edge, but we are at the front of change, and
in some aspects,
a lot of aspects.
Yeah, but we're out of touch with big travel bikes and stuff like that are more prevalent.
They're not appropriate here,
right? I'm just saying, like, when it comes to gravel and like trail riding, I think that's probably where.
I mean, the rest of the country is still very heavily Trek and Specialized oriented, for example.
Yeah.
I mean, and not that Dallas Fort Worth isn't.
Yeah.
But you start talking boutique brands in other areas, they're like, no, I've got my Specialized. I'm fine.
Yeah.
I mean, a big part of that is we've got so many really good shops around here that they have to find their competitive edge or what differentiates them from the other shops and the big brands and things like that. Whereas if you're the only shop in a county, you're going to lean really heavily on the brands to funnel business your way.
And I guess if you're the only shop in the county, you can kind of, I figure like, so I'm just trying to wrap my head around this whole sealant in a tube thing and wonder if that's actually the shop kind of molding their customers or if that's the customers molding the shop.
I think it's highly likely both, quite frankly.
Because while I'm saying that, I'm also thinking I'm curious if you would have went to the Trek store that, like you said, is like 30 minutes down the road, if that same mentality runs there. If that's a Georgia-wide thing, or if that's just a very localized thing.
I think so. My guesstimate, but I do want to prove myself right or wrong on this. My guesstimate is like Warner Robins is a military town. So they have people from all over the place that are coming in there with different expectations of how a bike shop works. So I think there would be more choices in Warner Robins after the fact, now that I think about it. I think, yes, that shop in Macon was a byproduct of its market of being the only shop in town and working with basically the same small essentially unchanging market.
Yeah.
Year in and year out. So there's no reason to change. Yeah. Well, I mean, like the conversation I had with the guys on the front end when I was wanting to plug the tire, they're like, well, you don't need to do that. You just need, we've got tube. You can put orange seal. No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to.
Right.
I want tubeless.
Right.
There's a reason I have tubeless. And then one guy goes, well, how often do you ride? Every day? Well, if you ride every day, you should know how to change a tire. I do know how to change a tire. That's the whole point.
Yeah, cuck.
So, and again, I know it sounds like I'm beating these guys up, and it's very nice guys. I'll be happy to visit the shop again when I'm in the area, and just not to get plugs.
That's so interesting to me, and still like trying to wrap my head around that because. I mean, I guess tubeless came out around 2000.
Yeah, well, that's what I told us. It's like I've been tubeless for 20 years.
Yeah, 20 plus years.
20 plus years.
Yeah,
and the whole and I posted different videos and reels and stuff on it and posts, and all the comments. The comments are tubeless is stupid. Or the generic comments I get on those videos, and people talking about how much experience they have, and I've never needed, tubes have always been fine, for my one or two flats a year. It's like, all right, that's why my plugs went bad. I haven't needed to use them in years. Well, I don't even get one or two flats a year.
And I get that we are in kind of a microcosm of cycling, but I mean, if you show up on one of our rides and you're running tubes and it comes up in conversation, you're borderline ridiculed. Like, why would you? That's such such an antiquated thought process. But that's what I'm saying.
This is an echo chamber environment. That's my point. This is an echo chamber where we feed ourselves what the expectations are.
Yeah.
But again, we're back to our niche upon niche upon niche that we have a huge community of for this super niche stuff we do.
Yeah.
Most people don't go out and ramble for 3, 4, 6 hours at a time.
That's true.
Most people who ride a bike ride it on their park pathways for maybe 30 or 40 minutes.
That's true, and you don't need tubeless for that. Other than, I would argue, ride quality and just reliability, too.
Again, I don't know how big the endurance cycling market really is, but I mean, I even run into it, doing Spinistry stuff in the other, call them markets.
Mm-hmm.
The Austin community is distinctly different from what we have up here. Houston's distinctly different from both.
Sure.
San Antonio is its own thing. All of these markets and the riding cultures in them are all very, very different.
What about Florida? Because Florida's neighbor to Georgia. What is your experience with bike shops there?
Almost none at this point.
Okay.
After that experience in Macon,
Mm-hmm.
I was hoping to visit some shops. I mean, I've stepped foot in a couple shops in Florida over the years. Very few.
I'm curious. Now when I travel, I'm going to start trying to figure out what their mentality is when it comes to that. Because that's something that previously completely unaware of, and it wouldn't have even entered my thought process. Like, you kind of shook me when you said that.
Well, and that's why I told the story.
Yeah.
Man, that's so good.
Thank you, buddy.
But...
Well, I too have a bike related
I'm all ears.
repair replacement story that I don't think I shared. So, my Pearl shoes started to give up the ghost. I was running the Expedition Pros, and the carbon started to just fray and tear up on the toe, like to the point where it was missing pieces, like almost pinky size, where you could just stick your pinky in there. And the lugs were coming off around the toe area and on the side. And I looked, that's the beauty of emails and confirmations and all this stuff. I looked, and I just bought those shoes in January. And so I was like, shit. I belong through Big Pig, we have this affiliation with I don't even know if it's not like a company, but it's a conglomerate called...
A network.
Yeah, Expert Voice.
Yep.
And so we get a discount on like 300 plus brands or something. And Pearl happens to be one of them, Pearl Izumi. So I logged on there and I looked, and not only were these shoes on sale, but I get like an extra 40% off. So I ordered a pair. And then I thought, well, crap, why don't I try to get them warranted, So I called, I think I saw an ad or something that prompted me to do this, or heard it in another podcast. And so I called the number, the Pearl Izumi contact number, and left a voicemail. They called me back within 20 minutes. And the guy was like, yeah, you just need to take a couple of pictures and send them to info@pearlizumi.com, and someone will get to you. So I went for a ride, thought about it, got back, took pictures, I took pictures while I was putting my shoes on to go for a ride. When I got back, I had emails already. Hey, no problem. What size do you wear, and what's your address? That was the extent of the email. And I was like, oh, crap. And so I sent him an email address, and the guy said, no problem, I'll get them out today. And I sent him a quick email back, and I said, oh, is it possible for me to get a different color? And he goes, absolutely. Sends me the link to the shoes and says, you can have any color you want. And I was like, awesome. And so in the meantime, I had ordered a pair of shoes.
Right. So
lo and behold, both pairs of shoes showed up same day, same truck. And so I'm sitting on 2 pairs of shoes for the price of a quarter of a pair of shoes. Pretty happy. So I just need one more pair of cleats. So I have one pair of shoes that I haven't even ridden in, and
are
the other one.
Are both pair the same color, or are they different?
No, they're different colors.
Oh, so you got to swap colors, left, right, left, right.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No. I'm not Mike Frazier. But I'm pretty excited on how awesome that exchange process was.
That is awesome.
I mean, but that also led me to contemplate multiple other things. Like, A, why are these shoes wearing out so quick? Mm-hmm. And why was Pearl so quick to replace them?
Well, you know who else has great customer service?
Crank Brothers.
Uh-huh.
But it made me wonder, like, back to our industry news kind of stuff and talking about people sitting on so much inventory, the fact that they had all 4 colors in stock in my size in a shoe that is over a year old makes me wonder how much inventory is Pearl Izumi sitting on.
Oh, they were in the headlines earlier in the year as being in trouble along those lines.
And they're very seasonal in the sense that, they come out with new bibs almost every year. They come out with new colorways. They come out with new jackets and new gloves and new socks.
Used to.
Yeah, but I mean, Pearl Izumi's been around since I can remember. I remember.
Yeah, well, how long's Trek been around? And they're reducing their SKUs.
Right, but it just made me start to kind of have that thought process like, well, how durable are these newer pairs of shoes I've gotten, and how many pairs of shoes does Pearl just have sitting in a warehouse, and what does that look like?
Right.
That's crazy.
So, and no, I get both angles that you're coming from. So, the outdoor industry as a whole, everything from Big Agnes to Pearl to Crank Brothers to Smittybilt or whatever, the outdoors industry as a whole is notorious for having fantastic customer service for replacement whenever you have issues.
Because I'll share a story like this, and then that gives them a little bit more credibility.
Yes. But the root reason for it is they're able to, because 80% of the stuff they sell never gets used. So they're selling this stuff at full price, where only 20% of the stuff that they sell gets used by passionate cyclists that wear their shoes every day. The other 80%, somebody rides 3 or 4 rides and gets tired of it, and they stay in the closet for the next 20 years.
I hadn't even thought about that aspect.
They build that refund into their pricing, knowing that the churn of realistically only 20% of our customers are passionate enough to wear the stuff out, and of those 20%, only 25% may even reach out to us for replacement or refund or repair.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, so we tack 15% into each priced shoe
just to build in a buffer for
the refunds that we know we're going to do, and we make it easy for that replacement. So Brad tells this story on ShiftLess because it is a good story, and it is very good of Pearl to take care of things. But the basic business model of the outdoors industry is built into that. And I think it's arguable that pretty much every business should have that easy repair and refund and replace sort of policy built in.
But the surprising part to me was for a brand new shoe line for them. So this is a double BOA system that has the upgraded new BOA lace that's like a Kevlar, which has been the best system I've used from Pearl. Because historically they would cut through the lace guides after a year or so, and so the shoe was almost useless. But the shoe was basically worn out by that time, anyways. And I'd never tried to get those replaced. But in the past, when I've had a product that was a newer product from a company, and I've reached out to them and been like, "Hey, this failed this way," there was some level of curiosity.
Yeah, they want to reverse engineer your failure.
Right. These guys seemed almost unsurprised that this shoe failed in the fashion that it did, in the sense that there was 0 questions, and it was just, we'll send you a pair.
No, it's like the Tacoma motors.
Yeah, well.
At some point, they go, oh, yeah, we got an issue.
Yeah. Speaking of which, my mother, not a Tacoma driver, but she drives a Ford Edge, which is like an Explorer, but smaller. She called me the other day, and this was before Thanksgiving. And, she lives in Mississippi, Louisiana, Mississippi state line. And she's like, my battery is dead again. And I'm like, again? And it was just like 6 months ago she had to have it replaced
Mm-hmm.
because it was dead. And she took it to, AAA came and jumped it or whatever, and she drove it straight to Pep Boys or wherever that she had it replaced, less than a year before. And they said, yeah, it's no good. They warrantied it. So I started thinking, I go, this shouldn't be happening. And so I did a little internet sleuthing.
She had the automatic stop-start on that thing?
No.
Okay.
No, but, it mystifies me because every time I search for stuff that you come across this, it's a known problem. Like, that's a known problem with these vehicles.
Yep.
That even when the key is off and the ignition is off, the rear windshield wiper motor is drawing amperage. So I mean, within 2 minutes, I found this on the internet. I call her back and I go, hey, go out, pop the hatch, put your hand on the housing where the motor is and tell me if it's warm. And she's like, oh God, it's hot. And I'm like, okay, there's a problem. So I try to walk her through disconnecting this motor, but she's 75 and not technically inclined and not the most limber, and it's a awkward angle and all this. So I call my cousin and say, hey, I need your help. So they go over and unhook this motor for her, which she never uses anyways. And she even told me, she goes, yeah, I thought it was weird because I have it off and sometimes it just randomly comes on. But come to find out, there's apparently that motor only has so much range, call it 90 degrees or whatever, and when it's in the down position, when it's off, it's supposed to come into the rest position, and there's either a button or a switch or something that gets clicked that says, hey, I'm in the park position, quit sending power. Well, these motors or that switch or whatever fails, and so it just continues drawing amperage because it's trying to nest. And apparently that's a known problem with those vehicles and Explorers as well. And so people just wake up and their battery's dead. And I'm like, but Ford has not issued a recall for it. Like, if it's a known problem across the entire internet, why doesn't Ford just make a recall for it? Unless it's just way more expensive to fix it and it hurts their already struggling image.
Typically they don't. Nobody issues their recall until they're forced to by NTSB or whoever else, or they know it's about to happen.
Yeah.
Like, Shimano, when it did its cranks,
Yeah.
They didn't want that. I mean, they fought recalling them for years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, oh, damn, we're not going to get sponsored by Shimano, are we?
Come on, SRAM. I'm a SRAM fan through and through. But I mean, I guess, the windshield wiper is not a safety issue, You don't need a rear windshield wiper.
That's what, I mean, okay. Cars and trucks are so complex these days.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Every single one of them has a ticking time bomb of some sort in it.
Oh, yeah.
That's going to be a costly repair out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, even when cars were at their worst in the mid-1980s,
when they were made out of real steel,
you could count on just about any car making it 100,000 miles before a major failure of any kind.
Yeah.
And 200,000 wasn't unrealistic if you did some basic preventive maintenance.
That's before we learned about planned obsolescence.
Yep.
And overcomplication.
And now you've got $75,000 trucks that are failing less than 2,000 miles on them.
Mm-hmm. Remember when the new Broncos came out?
I'll always give a little bit of leeway to a brand new project like that because
that's why I'm never an early adopter.
I get that. I'll give them a little bit of not to the extent that the Broncos have needed it by any stretch of the imagination, but I mean, even then you don't have engines seize and transmissions blow out on brand new vehicles.
Right.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, as an industry, we've changed the way we produce stuff. shortcuts have been taken. There's a disconnection between this branch, and these guys are doing this, and it gets mated to this part, and everything's so fragmented that there's so many problems with the way we produce stuff nowadays.
It's a good thing the tariffs are going to fix everything.
Man, I am beyond curious to see what 2025 holds for us.
2025 will just be putting our toe in the water.
Yeah. But I feel like things are going to be better. I'm hopeful.
Okay.
I know it's going to be a good year for riding your bike.
It's going to be a fantastic year for riding your bike. But how are tariffs going to affect the bike industry?
Man, that's a good question. I would love to see more United States made products when it comes to the cycling industry. I think that there's going to be incentives towards that realm. If not, it's going to be foreign manufacturers establishing factories in the United States. But we shall see. Did you watch the Chinese carbon rim video that I sent you?
I don't remember you sending me that.
It was a longer video, but I did send it to you.
Okay. When did you send it?
It's been weeks.
Okay.
I'll find it and resend it to you because it is worth watching.
So we're already going to run into this with just because the manufacturer manufactures the end product in the United States doesn't mean that tariffs aren't an issue.
Well,
because the raw materials and the supplies involved in that, if you're building a bicycle, you're not mining your own aluminum or steel or titanium. That's or fair. Weaving your own carbon potentially.
Yeah.
You may be bringing in woven carbon already from somewhere else. So the tariffs are still going to affect at that level. They may not affect the total product import, okay, but it doesn't mean, if the whole thing's coming from China, let's say, and there's a 25% tariff on it, doesn't mean that if it's made in the United States, there's going to be a 25% advantage. They may still have 15 to 20% of tariffs in their raw materials that they have to make up themselves.
Yeah.
So it's not that cut and dried, and then it turns around into, so what sort of retribution do the other countries impose on our exports at that point? So I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying it's right. It's just
a tit for tat kind of shit.
It's very much so. It's not as simplistic as a lot of people are trying to make it out to be. And the nuts and the bolts of it are that the industries aren't in the other countries because the other countries took the business away from the United States. The industries are in the other countries because United States companies moved their stuff out of the country. Yeah. Is ultimately what it boils down to.
Yeah, look at Detroit. Good Lord. If we didn't learn anything about what all transpired in Detroit, that was should have been a big learning lesson. But I just noticed as I was looking, I did not send you that video. I guess I was mistaken, but now I have sent it to you.
Okay.
And it's so worth the watch. You will be blown away. In fact, I think you should link it because I think most people should watch it. It is a little bit longer of a watch. I think it's like 20, 25 minutes. But this guy goes and tours a carbon rim manufacturer in China. And when I think of these facilities, what's depicted in this video is not at all what I would have anticipated. This makes American hospitals look filthy. It is huge, gigantic, expansive, and the cleanest, most well-lit, just streamlined operation. And they are doing everything from start to finish, including creating their own carbon weave in-house, They're creating their own molds. They're drilling all their hoops. They're lacing their wheels, and then they have an inspector every step of the way with like almost zero tolerance. And there's a couple of really noteworthy things that occur in the video, or that he mentions in the video. One of which being that this one plant, I guess you'd call it, produces wheels, rims for, I think he said 25 different companies. And I suspected that, that was the case. I know Envies are made in the United States, but aren't they? At least they used to be. I think they are, and I think that's part of why
I believe so.
And I think that's why the price tag is so lofty.
I believe so.
But I often suspected that companies like Nexty and I can't even name 10 different carbon rim manufacturers, but that they just have different stickers on them and they're all made in the same place.
Right.
And this just substantiated it when I watched the video. But it also gave me a lot more confidence in Chinese carbon rims. Like, historically people have always kind of shat on Chinese carbon rims, but
not in the past 10. Well, anyone that has for the past 10 years
Yeah.
is deluding themselves.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, I hate to say it, but it seems like China is the forefront in carbon at this point, maybe not in carbon frames necessarily, but still, after you watch this video, you'll be like, oh, I'm buying some Chinese carbon rims. I mean, it's impressive, to say the least.
I get it. But
I still like to buy American products, but Chinese rims are just for the entry point pricing is. I mean, you can't even buy a decent aluminum rim for the amount that I can buy carbon. I
mean, with communication and technology and fast money exchange, it's truly a global economy. So, trying to be isolationist in that environment, personally, I don't think it's a realistic expectation. But that's way above my pay grade. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So I'm not trying to be judgy one way or the other on it. I don't see how an isolationist approach works in modern times. But I'm willing to be proven wrong. I'm always willing to be proven wrong.
On the inverse of all that, did you watch the Colnago video about the new Colnago printed titanium bike?
I started to, but I think I fell asleep to it.
It's worth watching too, from the fact that they go down the history of Colnago, and one of the coolest parts about the whole video is he goes on a tour the Colnago factory where they have the whole museum.
Like, there's my Colnago. I miss it so much. They had my Thai Oval Master.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, oh my God.
But then the guy proceeds in the video to go to all these different manufacturers that are in Modena, Italy, and in, I can't remember where else. He goes, I mean, within 100-mile range, all of this stuff is produced. And so it's an Italian-made bike. Like, the people that are printing the lugs are, like, right down the road. The people, he goes to Columbus, the tubing company, and he sees how they forge the tubes and how they extrude, and he collects the actual tubes that they're going to use to build this bike, and then he goes to the lug place, and they go through the lug production, and he gets the actual lugs that they're going to use, and he goes back to Colnago, and it's a really cool video to see how all of this culminates to create this futuristic throwback bike, which is such a weird kind of term.
It's that bike is so up my alley.
It's so dead sexy.
It's
dead sexy.
And Colnago, last I heard anyway, is like the only bike manufacturer that has had no issues with current market conditions because they position themselves to be boutique upon boutique.
Well, luxury brands rarely suffer.
Right.
So,
and they went all in on their luxury end of things, which I don't fight them for doing that. My issue with it, but that's why I was so happy to see this bike coming out, is when Colnago went carbon. I'm sorry. I understand they had to. I don't fight that, but there wasn't anything that was Colnago about a carbon frame.
yeah, because Colnago started it as a steel lugged bike.
Yeah, it's like I don't understand why I would spend $10,000 more for that bike. There's no reason to.
But there's been so many progressions in cycling that technology dictated, the customer dictated, and some of them are just undeniable.
No, that's what I'm saying. I get that, but there's no way for Colnago, outside of their label being on that carbon bike, there's nothing that truly differentiates them at that level.
Yeah.
Now, I get it. They are the luxury brand, but it used to be, and the titanium bike is the example of that, and the just those amazing paint jobs that Colnago, and that was another thing when they went carbon. The paint job suffered as well.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not the piece of art it used to be. I guess it's the best way.
Well, the heart of the matter is carbon frames don't have a soul. We all know that.
I'm not going to argue with that.
We all know that.
I don't think I have a carbon bike of any kind anymore.
The only one I have is my big hit bike.
I liked my Warbird. But
I would love to have a Cutthroat, and that's a carbon frame.
I thought I would.
Yeah.
But I'll take Ty.
Yeah. Oh. So we talked about this last year, like probably before we hit 40 episodes, like what is your dream frame material? I mean, if it's not super high end steel, for me it's titanium, like no hesitation.
Oh, well, but it still has to be. There is shit titanium. There's shit titanium.
But I mean, the Fargo's not a boutique high-end titanium frame.
I get that,
and I love.
But it's not shit titanium. There are true shit titanium bikes out there.
Like what was it, Moto Bacane that did tie frames?
I think they had some.
Yeah,
I think that, but I don't know that. I don't want to throw them under the bus because I don't have personal experience with it. But
I have no allegiance to Moto Bacane.
For example, I would love to get my hands on the State titanium bike. I don't have much faith that a Thai bike complete for $2,400 or whatever it is.
Is that what it is?
I thought it was something like that.
Wow, I'm dialing up the Googleizer right now.
And I'm not knocking State. I would love to experience that bike and see what it's like.
But that's a QBP product, right?
No, State is not QBP.
Wait. Oh, I'm thinking of All City.
You're thinking of All City.
Okay. Huh. Wow. Looking. Titanium All Road?
Yep.
Is that it? $24.99.
Oh, $2,500. I was off by $100.
Yeah, but you can get a frame and fork for $12.99.
Yeah.
What's the tire clearance on this thing?
45 at least.
Man, that's hard to argue with. If I was jumping into the gravel world, that would be one of the bikes I would be looking at. Disc brakes. I mean, I'm sure the components are probably at that price point probably not crazy good, obviously.
I think State does they have in-house brand.
Sure. You can choose your group set.
And you can
basically build this thing out.
You can upgrade it.
Huh.
So, and State is doing their 12 Days of Christmas thing right now. So I'm keeping an eye. If that one pops up on their 12 Days of Christmas for $1,500 complete, I may jump on it.
Man, you'd be silly not to. Especially with all the money you have.
Well, that's the problem. So, yeah. I'll be we're looking at probably getting a rental place in Florida to go back and forth as needed, sort of thing. So that's gonna have a high impact on.
Oh, and just for Caleb, when you're building your state bicycle, you can choose your tire color. You can choose if you want black or tan wall.
You can.
Wow.
You can. But hey, state. If you want to sponsor ShiftLess,
I would love to throw.
Would you be willing to whore
bike.
yourself out to state for a little bit?
I would ride the dog piss out of this bike. I would love to ride this bike.
Episode 87.
What the? It's got a ceramic bearing headset for $2,500.
Episode 87 brought to you by State.
Jeez.
How about 88, 90? How about through 100?
And it's got a UDH. Damn it, boy. What? So what is State doing differently? I mean, I'm sure.
I want to try all their stuff out. I really do.
I didn't even know that this was going on. I need to do a deeper dive, but.
Well, all right. So
it comes with 40Cs on it, 47s. Okay. So you said 45s. I want to know what the
max is.
Yeah.
Well, if it's coming with 47s, you got to be able to stuff 50s in there. But wow,
they do carbon, they do titanium, they do.
Huh. But it's direct, and But here, follow my logic and tell me where it's flawed. I am most assuredly the proponent of the local bike shop.
Same.
That said, if that local bike shop doesn't even carry tire plugs, I'm not sure what their bicycle recommendations may be, or their variants of bicycle recommendation. They may be very much, we stay in this very, very narrow niche of what's available. That said, I have always, like when I went 29er, my first gravel bike, I would get the best low cost deal out there to try it out. So like my GT piece, I got it as a closeout bike for like $400.
Yeah.
And one ride on it, it's like, oh yeah, I'm a 29er guy. And a couple years later, I buy my Yeti Big Top. So to me, it was worth it to spend low buck to find stuff I knew I liked or what I didn't like. And I had a couple of losers along the way. It's like, that didn't work for me, but I can flip a $300 bike for $250,
But,
and that was back then. And I think the same logic applies now for maybe $1,000 to a $2,000 bike, I guess is what I'm getting at.
But if you're buying the lowest end new technology, are you really giving it the best fair handshake? That's my question. Like, there's a balancing act there.
There is, and that's where it does get tough. Because yes, I'm able to differentiate: is this a bike issue or is this a component issue? I can differentiate that. I can recognize where a brand new cyclist isn't necessarily going to appreciate that.
Oh, the sun feels so good.
I'm going to ride my bike today, Dan.
I am going to ride my bike.
Sure, that's nothing important.
Preem, sprint. You got it.
Somebody from El Paso. I don't know if I know anybody. Well, I know somebody from El Paso.
Do we know somebody from El Paso?
I know somebody from El Paso, but I don't know that I know anybody in El Paso.
Yeah, well, that's a great place to ride a bike, by the way. So now that the sun's out, I've got some prep to do, and I'm going to go ride my bike.